Good morning. I said more than a year ago that we're living through a financial revolution, and it's becoming apparent that this revolution is huge. Like it's like watching the American Revolution and following along in real time on Twitter, X, and it's pretty fucking scary. Like how like the financial markets has corrupted the entire Western world like a mafia. How supply and demand is not what sets the price of stocks and what do you call commodities, and basically just raking everything. Increases taxes for the average Joe to make sure that they stay on the workforce and cannot build wealth, while these scammy politicians, they dream of big promotions in in Europe. They want to get the greatest career they can dream of and be like a whatever, take the whatever, take the boat. And it's funny how like all, at least the Danish politicians, they have made the worst decisions ever. They get the promotions, right? Outside in outside Denmark into Europe, where it's like such a big status to be. Oh, and the people in Denmark, because they don't know any better, they're just like, oh, we have a Dane in NATO. We have a as a secretary of NATO. We have a some other politicians in wherever, and it's just like, oh, you go. Well, they don't know how they got these promotions, and neither do I. I just look at patterns. Like the worst decision that was made for Denmark to go into Afghanistan, which was like pretty fucking dumb, and was a war that was created by a big lie that, like, basically it started so strange. Like Iraq had nuclear weapons or something of mass destruction, which there was basically no one of it was just a lie to make sure that the population was willing to justify the war. And then suddenly, because of whatever, 9/11 or whatever, then they went into Afghanistan, which was like, well, Al Qaeda was basically in Pakistan. So didn't make sense either. And suddenly now Taliban was the enemy. Seems like it was just about making sure that there was good distribution of opium to make pharmaceuticals, or some pretty dark fucking secret about why. So in that, keep that in mind, and then you see, all right, now we have Trump in the White House, which is pretty fucking awesome. And seems like he's all about common sense. Like he really wants a common sense world away from this corruption of destruction that is destroying Europe, destroying America, and potentially could destroy the world. And the mental gymnastics, like the newspaper does and the Euro politicians do, to make it seem like it's Donald Trump that is bad for seeking peace and have like sound policies, and suddenly say, all right, we need common sense back. No more of this indoctrination of gender shit. And let's have a look at these politicians that make so much money on a 200,000 salary, and they are good for like $70 million. Like, how do they accumulate this wealth? Most people don't even ask these questions, and they just follow the mainstream media, and therefore they become retarded because they are unable to ask a simple question. They needed to be presented by a guy in a suit on television or from some journalist on a newspaper, because if it's printed in a newspaper, then it's good. I don't know what the thoughts are, but I guess some sort of Stockholm syndrome where they have faith to the propaganda and therefore they get trapped in it. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. And then we have Europe, where I'm located, and all the politicians are like, they want to keep the gravy train going, so they're not too fond of it, because I guess if they have a lot of bad shit a lot of blood on their hands about the vaccine that they seem to profit off, at least they keep giving them to pregnant ladies, knowing that it basically have no benefit and has a lot of side effects. And if you know anything about vaccines, you don't want to give them to a pregnant woman that is about to build the safest kind of environment for that kid. So pumping them with this poison usually have some odd side effects for the fetus. And that's another crazy thing about the vaccine, just in general, about how it's definitely correlated to all sorts of diseases. Like a lot of anecdotes about women, they see that child at 2 or 3 years old, and it's normal, and then they get like a good old batch of vaccines, and suddenly it becomes very autistic. Like it's suddenly it went from awesome to now sort of like a bit of a nightmare, watching your own kid, go from normal to screaming and banging their head against the wall. Well, yeah, and the finance corruption, that's what, like, everyone kind of knew the Wall Street was corrupt, but I guess reality just exceeds imagination. But then you follow GameStop and you see, like, all right, it's not price or demand that runs the price. It's basically a market maker and these corrupt financial institutions, because they have positioned their own bags against this stock, and even have used consulting firms to plant in bad CEOs and board members to drive this company to bankruptcy, like a mafia, because there's a lot of money to be made in destruction, and it's pretty hard to build something. But not only do they destroy companies and take the profit tax-free by shorting it excessively, like more than there is of stock, because they can fuck the prices, and they can print fake shares to dilute the price. Not only do they do that, they also pump like big stocks like Amazon, Nvidia, Alphabet, those that are in line with the doctrine. They pump those, and because they keep buying the price or elevate it, because they have the market makers, they destroy supply and demand, then the price go excessively up to these ludicrous prices that everyone that has like feet on realism would know that no fucking way should this company evaluate it to this price. But if you just put a finance guy in a suit, and suddenly he can justify why the price is how it is, and no one asks questions. It's just like, he seems to know. And then you have their, bags. They on paper have a big position that is green because they have pumped this bag and they've shorted the other bag. So it seems on the balance sheets that they are positioned in green. But in reality, when supply and demand actually sets in, they're pretty fucked. So how is this financial revolution going to play out when the European markets are still corrupt, and the Americans are too, but it seems like America is cleaning up in this corruption? And what will the ripple effect be when they're going to find out? Pretty exciting.